different colors. Woo! What do you mean, never mind? Can you, hey, before you do that. Oh. I hate photos of myself. It is, my friend. It is. I got the new phone so I can edit, because editing, videos on Twitch is like, was really hard on my old phone. Oh man. Hey Mystic, it's been a while. Today I'm going to go over how I fucked up in my debate, and how I didn't fuck up, and how he didn't fuck up, but how he fucked up as well. Just for a little. I have work at 4:30 or 4, so I have a hard cutoff, but we'll be able to get a lot done. Yeah, basically. Why is this not working? Testing, testing. What the hell's chat thingy? What's going on here? What the heck? Someone type something. Oh, there it is. Okay. I was like, why is it not popping up? Yeah, basically a review. Yeah, my girlfriend showed me that last night, and I was like, no fucking way. Her face says it all. Do I even need to say anything? She's like, what this dude just say? Yo, what? This shit was stupid. Big stupid, bro. All right, let me get... I tweaked my my back shoulder. What is that noise? Huh? Bro, why does TikTok just add sound? You know what I mean? Like, what? Why does it do that? Stop. So stupid. Yeah, that one is a little meta, isn't it? Because Trump has said the war's over, right? He's like, wait, we don't need their help, stupid fucks. Like, we don't even need their help. And then he's like, how come NATO didn't help? And when he's also at the same time again going like right after that, but we didn't need their help. And you're just like, okay, what? Are you confused, my friend? What is going on here? Why are you like this? Doesn't make any sense to me. All right. You know, I've been watching because I subscribe to the Crucible, right? And I've noticed that Andrew's editing team hasn't really made that many videos about me. Besides, I think there's a second one out now, but none of it is about the debate, which I find very funny. Poor Andrew. That wouldn't surprise me. Germans owe us. All right, so let's go to the video. Where is it? The fuck is it? This one? Yeah, it's this one. Yeah, I make YouTube. I have YouTube Shorts and stuff, and believe it or not, YouTube Shorts kind of fucking slap. They kind of slap. Oh, it's pretty low in volume. All right, so wow, it's really quiet. Holy fuck. You guys can't hear that, can you? One sec. Okay, Dennis.
Have these things, so we know that atheism is impossible and the theistic position is true. I can demonstrate this pretty simply through the transcendental argument for God. X is a necessary precondition for Y therefore X being God, and Y being these transcendental categories. But a simpler way I like to put it is a universal.
Did I call it or what?
Mind is the necessary precondition for.
I did call it.
Universal immaterial concepts. Concepts come from minds. Definitionally, the definition of a concept is an idea. So the type of concept would be dependent on the type of mind. Me as a particular person with a particular mind has particular concepts.
There we go.
Universal concepts in the world would come from a universal mind. And this is only one section of a paradigmatic argument. This is very important. None of these things exist in a vacuum.
So we're going to go back to this part.
So yes, I'm taking the affirmative statements. Awesome. Thanks again, Speakeasy, for hosting. So yes, I'm taking the affirmative. Atheism is impossible.
So first things first, the prompt. The prompt is atheism is impossible, right? So I just want to point out that I kind of feel a little annoyed because this guy didn't want to debate the prompt, right? He wasn't looking to debate atheism is impossible. He debated something else, which was, the tag argument, transcendental argument, which in my opinion, again, sucks. It's not a good argument. It's just a presuppositional argument from a guy who then was criticized by reformists and Christians themselves because he rejects part of the Bible, like Romans 1, about suppressed knowledge, right? And it really doesn't make an argument. It just kind of looks at the lack of an argument and then says that that's the argument, which is an abductive way to do things. It's not an argument for, it's an argument out of the best option. So that's why it's an abductive one. But I do want to engage with what he's saying nonetheless, okay?
This is because, atheist worldview, things like knowledge, truth, laws of logic, meaning, information, universal immaterial concepts, as I call them, would not be possible. We have these things.
Essentially what he's saying, by the way, is that atheism is impossible, right? Atheism is impossible because atheism cannot account for knowledge, truth, okay, laws of logic, so we'll just put logic, meaning, information, things like that. And the way this works is we ground all of these things, and grounding is very contested as an idea, okay? Just because you say we ground it here doesn't mean that instantly proves his argument, right? That's kind of the problem here, is that there's a lot of confident, rhetoric by him, where he's kind of memorized the J. Dyer argument and Eastern Orthodox here. He doesn't know why he's saying it. I don't think he knows much beyond, that's why he kept repeating the equation. X is a necessary condition. And when I asked him to like explain what that means, he was like, well, it just means X is a necessary precondition of Y. So he kind of like memorized a lot of these things. That doesn't mean he doesn't know anything though. I think this is probably one of my poorer debates. And it might be because I wasn't really prepared to argue against tag in this moment. Because the prompt is atheism is impossible. The prompt does not argue tag. Now, he tries to extend tag in the modern sense to cover atheism is impossible, but that's even more of a jump philosophically, okay? So this is kind of where he overreaches right in his beginning, even if it's rhetorically strong. And what I mean by that is he states that tag, okay, which is X is a necessary precondition for Y, and Y, therefore X, okay? And then immediately jumps to universal mind is a necessary precondition for universal immaterial concepts. Now, that's just not something you can claim. And I say this incorrectly. I kind of check this incorrectly. I say universal claims are meaningless. And when I say meaningless there, I mean towards what he's putting forth, which is incorrect, because you can make metaphysical claims with universal claims. I just kept incorrectly saying that they're ultimately meaningless, but in his argument, that's what I was trying to point out. He's making a jump that is ultimately meaningless because you can't prove any of it. Only if you do something necessary, which is presuppose God. And the reason this argument's really boring is because there's no neutral playing field. Presupposing God is kind of a game over. And you can't really create an argument for if you're just going to presuppose the necessity beforehand, right? If you start from God, it's circular as fuck. And then there's an argument in this whole debate that over time, Frame has said things like every argument at the end of the day is somewhat circular, right? And I think that doesn't really help the argument here. Doesn't really prove anything. It makes it even harder. But nonetheless, this is where, in my opinion, he presents his case really well, rhetorically, but ultimately he's overreaching heavily here.
So we know that atheism is impossible and the theistic position is...
Because he shifts to a grounding argument here. The argument is going to be about grounding. That's what tag is. And in my opinion, this becomes a circle game of like, I don't think you can ground there. He goes, I think you can ground there. Show me how you can't ground it anywhere else. And then I can sit there and go, okay, I mean, Kant does it differently. He didn't accept that though. He's upset about it, never read Kant. And then he just says that I'm not engaging and just invoking Kant. And then later I say, how about panpsychia, which is where you ground all of these things in matter itself, which is a valid thing. Like, I'm not sure if it's true, but this is a valid counter, to it. He has no answer for that, so he just says, I'm not engaging again. And you just do circles of where grounding is going to happen.
True. I can demonstrate this pretty simply through the transcendental argument for God. X is a necessary precondition for Y, Y therefore X, X being God and Y being these transcendental categories. But a simpler way I like to put it is a universal...
Did I call it or what?
Mind is the necessary precondition for universal immaterial concepts. Concepts come from minds definitionally. The definition of a concept is an idea. So the type of concept would be dependent on the type of mind. Me as a particular person with a particular mind has particular concepts. Universal concepts in the world would come from a universal mind. And this is only one section of a paradigmatic argument. This is very important. None of these things exist in a vacuum, but this is a worldview comparison taking in...
He literally hits all of Jay Dyer's fucking arguments. It's kind of insane. He just goes... incoherence, impossibility of the contrary, worldviewism, and just straight down. I'm not kidding. It's like he plagiarized his entire argument.
Everything that the atheist
not really what I think you should do, personally. I feel like you should put more effort into it.
Their ethics,
it's my own personal opinion, though.
And reducing it to absurdity. Because ultimately, in the atheist paradigm, They appeal to universal immaterial concepts like truth, logic. To deny so would be self-defeating, because if you deny logic or truth, you are making a knowledge, truth claim. You're using logic. However, in the atheist worldview, whether they are strict physicalists, materialists, naturalists, all the universe ultimately is material.
Atheism doesn't mean material. I brought that up, but he just doesn't even understand it. So, I mean, it is what it is. He straight up just doesn't even know, which is annoying.
Particulars. Material particulars don't give you universal invariant laws, concepts that are utilized by them every day. And what they will say is, it's all grounded in our minds. Well, wait a minute. Any type of knowledge
That's not what they say. Some people do, but not everyone.
To come from the outside world in order to make sense of the outside world. Even the concept of the self is completely unjustified in just a deterministic meat bag type of situation that they think the human condition is. But things have to be true about the external world in order to predicate anything. For example, the law of identity, that an object is itself and not itself, that A equals A. This has to be true about the external world for it to be true propositionally. So, and this concept is not reducible to anything material. You're not going to dissect a rock or a plant and find this.
I want to point out, so right off the bat, so we can talk about this immediately. So laws of logic, okay? Because a lot of this debate will come down to me incorrectly kind of fucking up what I remember about laws of logic, and then essentially him kind of abusing that in a good way for him, because I wasn't correctly talking about them some of the time. I shouldn't have conceded that logic is like fake. It's not fake, but I do think what I was saying was somewhat true. Laws of logic are prescriptive for the universe we know, but they're not descriptive for everything. And a lot of logicians, okay, in academia and scholarship in general, kind of disagree on some of the laws of logic. There's institutionalized logic. There's a bunch of different types of logic. I didn't really point that out that well. I can't do it today, Energy. I work at 4 or 4:30, and I'm going to go over my stream, but I don't have time today, I don't think. Ooh. So later, I'm gonna be at work. So I won't be able to do it today. But again, the problem here is not that is that he treats the laws of logic as like this universal immaterial binding thing that points to God. Which is probably what I should have pointed out. So it's not like really over an argument uses logic. The argument here is whether the laws of logic even prove the ontology he wants, and they don't. Couldn't hear my response. What do you mean? Oh, man.
Thing called the law of identity. Again, they'll try to say that this is a tool that humans construct linguistically, but again, all of this is predicating and presupposing that there is truth in the outside world, that truth is discovered. If we created truth, then it would be arbitrary and subjective. We would be able to change it, but in fact, we discovered truth, which presupposes...
Again, I'm going to be at work, so not today. It has to be another day. Oh.
Poses a notion of truth that exists.
I guess the one word thing I want to say about this. The debate is whether atheism is impossible, right? He immediately starts arguing, though, that a grounding case, tag, about truth, logic, and universals, but that's definitely not the same thing as demonstrating impossibility. Even if, this is why immediately I turn this into, I mean, even if you're correct, right, I grant everything he's saying, then how does that prove unrealness and not just falsity? And he doesn't even know what I'm talking about. So he just assumes that whatever he just said, grounding-wise, can cover the impossibility, which is not how this works. But nonetheless, that's what the beginning here is.
External to us. So that's, again, one level of it. I think that's the most solid evidence for why atheism is impossible, because, again, a strictly material universe, no one particular object can ground or make possible or produce universal invariant laws. But also we have the ethical angle, we have the epistemic angle, as I just mentioned, and trying to get better at freeballing opening statements. I think it's an impressive thing to do, but that's all I got right now. I'm itching to get into the open panel. So very curious to see how my opponent will attempt to justify and give reasoning for universal immaterial concepts, universal immaterial laws, and I appreciate him for doing this debate. So there we go.
All right. So, 5-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. Oh, hold up. Thank you for that opening statement, Eli. With that, we are going to hand it over to you, Circa, for your opening statement. Let me restart this timer for you. And whenever you're ready, Circa, for your opening statement, you can go ahead and jump right in.
I did a rebuttal here.
Timer up for you.
Okay. Honestly, it was actually really interesting opening. I actually feel like there's a lot of depth to the philosophy behind this stuff. It reminds me of a lot of Jay Dyer's arguments. Now, I do want to point out that when we talk about the impossibility of the contrary and how Jay Dyer uses, if I'm not mistaken, it doesn't matter. The point is, I think you'd still have to prove that the necessary condition for X is not actually proven yet. So, in my opinion, it doesn't really show necessity. Also, falsifying atheism does not mean that it is impossible or unreal. So the prompt is, atheism is impossible. Are you trying to say that it is false, or are you trying to say that it is just not real? Because those are two different things. And then for the worldview holism claim, this is just a nice way to package everything up into a nice little entanglement. It's not very narrow, and it does not imply that atheism, again, is unreal. And you probably need to show how you can narrow this down instead of doing a totalization here. And then I want to point out that when it comes to philosophical systems, let's just say between atheism and like theism in particular, all of us kind of argue over the definitions, and at minimum a stance on God belief, and not like just metaphysical definitions in general, are not going to essentially make atheism untrue again, or sorry, unreal or impossible, like the prompt says. And I feel like I heard a lot of arguments and slogans hiding underneath one slogan, and none of them really are going to give you what this prompt says. So again, atheism can be false without being impossible. And if we slide into a disagreement over the metaphysical impossibility, from disagreement to that, I'd like to see how you can make that jump. And then even if logic or morality require grounding, like you mentioned before, that still doesn't show that atheism is unreal. I mean, it just means that whatever you believe in is certainly like presupposed as the only ground, but that still doesn't prove it's unreal. And I think that I'll just end my rebuttal there.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that opening statement. Nice and short and sweet. So next we're going to get into the rebuttal round. So this is 5 minutes of uninterrupted rebuttal so that the...
Xrox, how do you think this debate went? I think it was one of my poor debates. Probably, I mean, again, the prompt, I don't think he I think I won because he didn't even argue the prompt, but I wasn't really prepared to talk confidently about they're pathetic in general. I mean, tag is not usually an argument I actually argue against a lot because of how uncommon it is, but I think it's getting more popular right now, right? But it is not an argument for God. It is an argument by, like, you know, pointing out a non-argument. It doesn't really have an argument. Like, the impossibility of the contrary is lazy, in my opinion. Although I do still think I correctly point out. Yeah, it also showed a little bit of depth of mind. I kept saying, and then when I rewatched it, I was like, why did I keep saying that universal claims technically can't be, like, they're meaningless? Because I brought up Aristotle and brought up Aristotle's Nicomachean ethics, right? And Aristotle doesn't mean universal claims entirely. He's talking about a specific kind. He has these, like, Greek names for them, right? And I technically was using them incorrectly. But I should have said that when I said it was meaningless, it was more or less his argumentation with it. Like, his universal claim is meaningless. Yeah, no, literally, I was like, it's the only thing they could do is not engage with Kant, right? I was like, Kant literally does what you're saying, but just doesn't ground it in God. Isn't that what you asked for? I was like, what the fuck you do? It was so weird, bro. I literally could not understand that at all. And, you know, they kind of just kept pointing out that I kept invoking him. And I was like, I mean, isn't that what you're doing with this one? You're just, you know, you're just invoking Van Til. You just don't want to say his name. You're plagiarizing everything he's saying, but just because you haven't read Van Til doesn't mean that, like, you're not doing it. That's the thing, is, like, Kant, I know that Kant, yeah, tag is so dumb. I know that Kant doesn't, he grounds a certain part of his argument in the mind, but for him, God is not, like, the necessary condition here. Like, he still uses a transcendental argument with a transcendental condition, right? And I was like, I didn't really get it. I was like, what do you, I gave you an answer. The impossibility of the contrary is now just not available for you. I mean, I guess it doesn't work for you if you do agree, though, right? Like, you have to say Kant's transcendental argument is worthless, or it's, like, the same as yours, and then you still have the contrary to go from. Because if there is one opinion out there, one thing to the contrary, then, you know, your argument is all of a sudden just collapses, right? Because you need the impossibility of the contrary for it to work. So Kant grounds, yeah, the abductive thing, yeah, 100%. That's what's happening here. Tag always does this. They make a transcendental argument, and then the deductive necessary part to make the necessary condition, they just, like, conflate what abductive means in deductive. So they don't make an argument. They just go, well, no one else can make an argument. Therefore, it's the best option. That's abductive. I'm sorry. That's not an argument. That's not a deductive argument. You're not actually putting forth, you know, something that is, like, necessary and concrete. It's literally an ad hominem reductio of the contrary. Exactly. How the fuck is that deductive? It kind of surprised me that he was like, he just, like, agreed when I said, okay, so you're making an abductive argument. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Yeah. Now you're not making a transcendental argument then. Then later he's like, oh, I just misspoke. I meant deductive. I'm like, it was abductive though. Shoulder. I fucked up my shoulder. Also, I think they weren't really ready for it yet, right? Yeah, it's a precept. Yeah. it's framed as deductive, and then once you get to the like steps 3 and 5, you know, all of a sudden it doesn't look like a deductive argument anymore. You have to start with God and presuppose it. Neutral grounds destroyed, all that kind of shit, right? And he mentioned soundness, right? So he was doing a deductive argument at one point where he was like, whether the argument's sound, and I'm like, okay, so the validity of the argument's not really the problem here, it's going to be the soundness. So a deductive tag would need, without Christian God, no intelligibility. And it needs to be much stronger than God and Christianity explains intelligibility better. Right? I was just like, I don't know how many times I can tell you this. And I guess they think that just pointing out everything else, being unable to do what you want, is somehow the same as like you putting forth the premise that is sound without Christian God, no intelligibility. Like that's it's opposite of what you're saying, right? Like it was fucking annoying me, bro. But I did fuck up in the laws of logic section a little bit and stuff like that. I shouldn't have denied the laws of logic, even though I think what they were saying, they weren't really asking me whether the laws of logic were, you know, universal in our universe. They were just asking me, like, can you think of a universe where they might not be? And I don't think I was being incorrect there, if you know what I mean. So I just like to say that I don't know. You know, because different modern logics do not agree. Like logic pluralists deny that there is one uniquely correct logic binding every context in exactly the same way. Like that's truth. That's a fact. So contemporary like metaphysicians don't even fully agree on what grounding is. They don't agree on what logic is. So when they're asking me stuff like, can you think of a universe where the laws of logic don't, you know, aren't true? I can, in a way. Just in the same way, like a 3D dimensional or a 3-dimensional figure can't understand an 8D dimensional space. I can still think about 8 dimensions, but I can't really envision what it'll be like. So again, when I kept saying universally metaphysical claims can be meaningful, are not meaningful, what I meant to actually say was they're not empirically or apodictatally, that's the word I'm looking for, right? Proven beyond dispute. So like, the fuck is that word for? Apodictatally. That's the word I'm looking for, right? Yeah. But I kept saying the incorrect thing. I kept saying they're not meaningful, which is not correct. I should have kept it towards what he was putting forth, but I kind of got a little annoyed and exhausted, I think, and just got a little lazy with what I was saying. But this is what I should have said. Like, even the laws of logic or universal metaphysical claims, like they wanted to do, are not empirically or apodictatally proven beyond dispute. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was feeling like. It's like they were trying to conflate, imagine a universe or a world, and I'm like, do you mean like imagine our universe? You know what I mean? Plus, there's a problem with the logic behind that. And for a second there, I started to point it out as it relates to the Trinity. Because if the laws of logic bound everything and God is supposedly not boundless, then how does that make sense? And they tried to justify it a bit. Ultimately, I feel like it wasn't satisfactory, though. Yeah. Yeah, you mean at the end there? Yeah, where I was talking to like 5 different people trying to... And they couldn't even get it straight themselves, right? Like there was a point where I said something and then 2 of them said yes and no at the same time. And I'm like, okay, I mean, shouldn't you guys figure this out? That the God Trinity part specifically was a leprechaun guy and Eli himself. I was like, well, I mean, it seems like you guys can't even agree, so weird.
Debaters can.
Where's my next
From
part
the
I want to
atheist
talk
perspective,
about?
you're taking in Hume's critiques there.
Yeah, I know I'm taking in Hume's critique, you know, the problem of induction, but funny because I bring in he's so annoying. Fucking leprechaun man. Oh my god, I hate that guy. Fucking fucked up my scapula in the gym today. Shit's fucking awful right now. You know, he complains that I bring up like his name's Tarek, or he looks like, you know, Lucky Charms man, and talks like him too. He's annoying. His mic is also just Neo Yahtzees. You know, he's just fucking throating it the entire time. Yeah. It was weird though. He was like, "You're using Hume, and then you bring up Kant," and I'm like, Kant, like, you know, directly contradicts Hume. On purpose. That's why I brought him up. I didn't want to bring up Hume. I wanted to bring up Kant to, you know, try and battle your transcendental argument, because a transcendental argument doesn't really make much sense to use Kant against. It was annoying.
But okay,
It's
if
not him.
truth is
It's
not
fine.
universal, well, that's not one of David. That's not the problem of induction.
No, not what I just brought up. I mean, no. This starts with Aristotle.
It is.
It's in, you know,
Well, yeah,
it's in
but
it's in
that
book
was-
6,
that was
like
that was Hume's.
in 1840. You know,
What's
that page.
what's
I know what
Hume's
page it
problem of
is. I don't have any notes yet.
induction?
That's where we get universal
Okay,
claims
what's Hume's
from.
problem? Well, okay, but what's Hume's problem of induction?
That's not what we're debating right now.
Well, it's one of the questions I'm going to be asking you. So, anyway,
Again, he never asked me this again, by the way. Wait, I just realized that. He never asked me about this question at all. This guy seems to me like really insecure. I mean, like I said that in the debate, but something's got to change here with this dude, man. Like, comments like that, you know, where you have to like lie to present this like different version of yourself and more confident version of yourself of what you're trying to do off the cuff is weird. Because he did not ask me that again. He simply said that because he's trying to present a different image of what he's debating, I think. And, you know, me getting a book should not make you fucking mauled that much. That shit was wild, bro.
what we're getting to here, let me steer this back. So, you don't believe that truth is an immaterial universal concept. You disagree with the universality of truth?
A universal concept is not.
So what? So truth is not universal.
Again, a universal claim about something metaphysical is impossible and meaningless.
Right.
So this is incorrect. It's just not empirically. You can't empirically prove it or provide apodictically. What's the fucking word for it? I can never say that damn word. But you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. So I mean,
all gremlins are
you
silent,
would need
right?
To answer. All gremlins are. It doesn't mean that gremlins exist, but I'm asking you a direct question about truth
Oh, the magical material truth.
in your position, and I'd like
Truth. This very cleanly material, empirically understood thing. Yes.
an answer.
It has nothing to do with whether or not atheism is impossible, man.
It does.
How?
Because my whole entire argument is we have truth. Truth is universal, immaterial, conceptual.
That's if you
That which is
presuppose
universal,
this necessary condition.
Well, no. Well, again, I'm doing an internal critique of your worldview. By
You're doing an
asking-
that part to me is crazy. Was he doing an internal critique? Does anyone think this guy is doing an internal critique of an atheist right now? I'm just like, like, excuse me? Internal critique of yours.
You're afraid to answer.
You're not doing one for mine.
I'm doing an internal critique of my. I'm the one who chose the prompt. Atheism is impossible, and you don't.
That doesn't mean you automatically are making an internal critique, right? If you just make the prompt atheism is impossible, I have no idea how that's fucking an internal critique just in and of itself. Hey man, how you doing? Do you think an internal critique would mean here? I am presupposing that theoretical, or sorry, like your theological?
I think you presuppose that truth exists. Is that true? Do you?
So, I think you presuppose that truth exists. Now, every atheist may not even believe this, right? You could be, you know, someone who's more of a relativist, right, and think that there is, or an anti-realist, there is no objective truth in being atheist, correct? So, how does one like do an internal critique where you hyper narrow this idea of like moral realism or anti-realism, and then just say that all atheists are like this? It's weird to me, dude.
Presuppose that truth exists?
Maybe I mean,
you don't know. So you're a debater who comes on debate streams and you're not even sure if truth exists.
I mean, you don't even. See, this sounds rhetorically strong. It makes me feel like I'm weak on my positions, but I feel like it's just not relevant. I'm not the one putting forth what I think is a 100% guaranteed claim about, you know, whether an entire worldview is impossible. I say on my stream a lot that I have a lot of opinions, and I feel like I know a lot about the anti-realist. Yeah. I feel like I know a lot about morality and philosophy and like psychology, and I pull from all these different topics. And if you really want my opinion, I tend to identify as a moral realist. Like I want there to be an objective truth. That's me internally, like wanting to have, you know, objective truth in the world. But there's a part of me that knows I'm not satisfied just going, yeah, 100%. If you don't know, you don't know. You're a loser. I know. It's just, it feels so arrogant to me. I just can't do it. So if he wants me to do that, I'm not going to do that, right? Like kind of like what your comment just says. 100% right on it. To me, to make such a like an insanely confident claim about the fact that objective truth exists, it feels wrong to me. It feels unsatisfying, even if I want to believe it's true. You know what I mean? But, you know, some people are more arrogant than me. I don't know. I don't know what universal claim is, so I don't know why you're trying to say that to me.
I know what a universal claim is.
Then you would know you can't do that with metaphysical fucking concepts.
Wait, hold on. Okay, but to say...
You have... Yeah, it's like a physicalist or something. Or a materialist, which again, not every atheist is either of those. There are atheists who believe in objective truth. Kind of like myself, where I feel like if someone in a life or death scenario asked me to choose one in a binary, right now, I'd probably go towards the moral realism take. I'm serious. I don't know. To me, it's appealing. Like, maybe that's, you know, incorrect or whatever, but I wouldn't go towards the materialist take to be able to rigorously scientifically understand it to experience, to be a universal claim, or else it's all gremlins are silent.
Right. Well, no, hold on. So would you agree that all dogs have 4 legs?
Sure. I don't know how that's a metaphysical claim, by the way. Dogs exist. Why do you think the statement all gremlins are silent is an improper universal claim? Because gremlins do not exist. They're mythical creatures, dude. There's a reason it doesn't say all dogs are silent. I fucking...
Oh, you just made a universal...
Yeah, but that's a physical claim. It's not a metaphysical claim. You could actually, given enough time, go around and measure whether or not all dogs have 4 legs. And then you'd be able to scientifically test its rigorousness.
I thought
empirically. Well, you can scientifically study that. So, like, the reason all gremlins are silent is more or less a claim that you can't prove empirically or test its apostic, fucking Christ, dude. I can never say that goddamn word. Apodicticity. Apodicticity. How do you say this damn word, bro? Phonetic. Apodicticity. 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 Okay, there we go. Apodicticity. So you can't empirically prove it's apodicticity. Okay? So quality of being logical, demonstrably true, leaving no room for doubt. And that's because gremlins are mythical. So when I say it's a meaningless thing to say a universal claim of metaphysics, I'm wrong. I should have said that. You can't prove it's apodicticity. Jesus Christ.
Wait. So
scientificity.
Wait.
So that word right there, I should have swapped with apodicity.
Wait a minute. What scientist has access?
It's not scientist. It's scientific. It's the way that we would just use the material world. Stop interrupting me. It's the way you use the material world to then figure it out through experience. It's not about science, dude. That's not what it is.
I'm asking you what wait, you just said it's a scientific claim, and now you're saying it's
scientificity. No, that's not scientific claim. It's how you test it, how you measure it.
It's not about science. Which one is it?
It doesn't mean it's not about scientist. It's about, again, experience.
Scientific claims don't involve scientists? Dude, this is sophistry, man.
No, it's not. You should probably read Aristotle. You want me to give you the page number? Where this comes from? Universal claim?
I want you to tell me what scientist has access to all dogs universally.
Given enough time, I feel like they could. But again, the better universal claim here, if you wanted to make one, because dogs exist, would be something like truth, which doesn't, exist materially. Dogs do. It's not what it means when I say scientificity or science. I can't say that word, but scientificity. I
told you I'd be asking you some of Hume's questions. So, okay, yeah. So
I'm using the most basic foundation of it, which is just Aristotle,
that's an
dude.
Unjustified claim from an empirical.
Who's God here? Wait. If I just presuppose that in my title, does that mean I'll get popular? Is that how this works? What if I presuppose the necessary condition of popularity? I don't want that, though.
Because you didn't empirically verify that all dogs have
Can
four
you
legs,
experience a metaphysical... Dogs exist, though. Couldn't you kind of empirically somewhat verify that? There's a reason, again, the reason all gremlins are silent is because gremlins don't exist. Dogs do. Can you Can you experience a metaphysical claim? Experience it.
Can you experience a
metaphysical universal claim?
You just said?
Yeah. Can you experience it?
One. I don't know what it means to experience.
The answer is no. If I say truth exists and is grounded in the mind, how do you experience that? How do you experience that? Experience here just means like, it's kind of relative to the empirically or a apodicity thing, right? Where you cannot actually experience or measure it. So you can't make empirical claims about it. So universal claims about metaphysical claims are not meaningless, like I keep saying. That's a huge mistake by me. But they are non-empirical. So like, how the fuck are you supposed to experience it?
It's a claim.
And you really need to just look up the definition of universal claim, bro. I'm like losing my mind.
Okay, well, maybe you can actually answer the questions and not run around like a kid playing tag on the schoolyard. I'm asking you back to the original question. So first of all, you're not even sure if truth exists in your world.
I find it weird that he just accused me of running around all over the place. Yeah. And conceding God's real. But the problem here, Amphibious, is if you look at the prompt, right? The prompt is atheism is impossible. So I thought I was debating that. Right? And the truth is like, at one point I grant his entire argument. I'm like, sure, yeah, everything's correct. You're 100% correct. Let's just keep going to the end. And then I'm like, okay, how does that prove impossibility or unreal? All you've done is prove that I'm wrong, maybe. If we just, devil's advocate, just say yes to everything you say. Is false the same as unreal? And he just like ignores it. And I'm like, dude, what am I debating right now? Am I debating like whether tag is true or not? Or why didn't you just tell me we were going to debate tag, dude? Like, what the fuck is going on?
So
why did you lie about what the debate was going to be? I mean, that doesn't mean I can't say the way you're trying to describe it is wrong. It's fucking weird, bro.
I'm just asking you from your position. You came here to defend atheism.
Yeah.
I came here to show you.
I came here to defend whether atheism is impossible, right?
Atheism's impossible. I want to do an internal critique of your worldview.
Okay.
I'm asking you if you believe truth exists. It's a very simple, straightforward question, sir.
It's definitely not a simple, straightforward question. The existence of truth is definitely not a straightforward question. Are you kidding me? You know what a straightforward question is? Hey, Siri, how far away is McDonald's? Oh, shit. And Siri says, oh, it's 5 turns, 5 minutes. And then you go, that's pretty straightforward. But like, if I asked Siri right now, what is truth? It'd probably be like, we don't really have a simple like chart of directions you can go. There is no McDonald's of truth. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck are we doing? Let's just say I do for right now. Let's just say I do.
No, I'm asking. Are you?
He doesn't want to accept it, bro.
So you're granting it for the sake of.
I'm granting it right
now.
Yep.
Sure.
I'm granting it.
Okay, well, gotcha. Truth may or may not exist, but I do debates. Great. Okay, so we're granting that.
But I do debates.
Truth exists.
I do debates.
Is it universal?
Yeah, got it.
It is universal.
I'm gonna agree to this as well.
Okay, and you agree it's immaterial.
In this case, yeah, we'll just agree to that as well.
And you agree it's conceptual.
That would be a concept, yeah.
Okay, do we discover it or create it?
I mean, it would be presupposed, right? It's a precondition. Discover.
Sure, but
so this would be this could probably be something like transcendentally, like a synthetic judgment, maybe, right? Something a priori.
Yeah, but but you can discover new truths, right?
Yeah, but not ones that are supposedly a priori.
So truth is
not ones that transcend.
I don't grant a priori and self-evidence here. That's
because transcendental means fact to condition. Wait. I didn't catch that part. What did he say? Sorry?
Yeah, but you can discover new truths, right?
Yeah, but not ones that are supposedly a priori.
So truth is
not ones that transcend.
I don't grant a priori and self-evidence here.
He doesn't? Huh? Because transcendental means... Isn't he a presuppositionalist? He's literally presupping right now. What part of not a priori self-evident are we doing? Fact to condition, right? Fact to condition. It's a necessary precondition. I should have been listening there. This is what I tell people all the time. You need to listen. But like what he just said there is fucking crazy. For his entire argument relies on presup. There's no discovering. You experience it beforehand.
Okay, but well, hold on.
Or you have an intuitive experience of it without ever experiencing it. That's what I should have said. What I said there was wrong.
Experiencing it beforehand. If we're talking about truth in totality, you don't have access to all truth via experience. There's still truth to be discovered, correct?
Except in the transcendental argument, we experience it before we ever experience it through intuition, if I'm mistaken. And then the experience that we know is, in Kant's argument, when the idea comes into the mind, we have a manifold, which then has templates of judgment to it. And I can't remember synthetic or analytic. I think analytic is the a priori and synthetic is the a posteriori. And this is why I had to have annotations. You know, he got so insecure that I had to go look at my annotations because Kant's hard. I can't remember all of it, man. But like the point is that Kant says we actually experience it before we ever experience it, and that's the transcendental part of it, in a way. Yeah, but it wouldn't be transcendental then, would it?
Right, so again,
he says right, dude. Right.
This is an equivocation on what we mean by truth. Truth in a proposition, the truth of experience.
Okay, I don't even know what that means, but truth in a proposition. Truth depends on whether the statement accurately represents reality. An apple is a fruit. Okay? Independence. Yep. Yeah, so propositions here with truth, like 2 + 2 = 4, in and of itself are not axiomatic enough, or they, like, you can't just go ahead and just tie, God as like the ultimate necessary condition to make that true then, right? Like he's jumping a big gap here, right? And then he has to do it by a reductio of the contrary. So using, these phrases, it seems like he just plagiarized Jay Dyer and doesn't actually know what these phrases mean, right? He'll just like repeat. If you notice, he repeated the X is a necessary condition of Y every single time I tried to bring up what a transcendental argument is or a transcendental condition. He like couldn't actually talk further than the equation.
It's, again, this is aiding to the fact that it's universal.
Like when I was trying to just write it down, and like do the equation on my whiteboard, I was like, okay, so Y is God, and he was like, you're just doing it wrong. You're not claiming it correctly. And I'm like, dude, I haven't even made a claim. I'm just asking you to just help me out so I can write out your fucking equation. I'm not trying to fucking got you right now.
Material and conceptual, but where I was asking you about it being discovered is when you learn something new, if you created truth, that would make it something we could change. That would be arbitrary. Would you agree?
I thought truth is supposed to be transcendental here. You're making a transcendental argument. That means we experience truth before we ever experience it, correct?
With that.
Sorry, say it one more time.
If we created truth, if truth was a created thing by humans, it would then be arbitrary and able to be changed, and then it would no
I know, right? I'm like, can we put forth an argument that, is your argument? Like, can we just fucking actually put forth a claim here? Why are you it's such a bitch way to argue. It's definitely not deductive, right? It's abductive. It's, look, my opponent isn't putting forth a claim. Therefore, the best guess is mine. It's just
be truth, right?
That's not how this works, man. Sure. I mean, I agreed that truth exists, but yeah, we didn't say if it was like
okay. I'm just trying to figure, because there's plenty of people that actually say that, yeah, truth is subjective, and I think
even though I already said, for devil's advocate purposes, 5 minutes ago, that I'm just going to agree with what you're doing so we can move through the argument, right? I just realized, he's going to continue to try and paint me as a subjectivist, like you said. Even though I agreed
that's a self-defeating premise. So
even though I never took that premise,
something to be discovered, which means exterior to ourselves, it's immaterial, universal, and conceptual. You have just necessitated a universal immaterial mind.
No, you have not. There's no reason to ground this. So here's the jump. Right off the bat. Yeah, he's like, wait, stop. I actually put a rung here that you're supposed to be a subjectivist. So I have to go through that. I can't skip that. I don't know how to think for myself. You can't just do that. No, you have to let me do my flow chart. But right here is a big jump. This part right here is where I should have been like, you haven't really demonstrated how that makes sense. Because right now he just assumed grounding in the mind right off the bat, and
discovered, which means exterior.
The only way he's able to do that is reducto contrary. I don't know, probably somewhere around when I start putting fucking limits on my whiteboard.
To ourselves, it's immaterial, universal, and conceptual. You have just necessitated a universal immaterial mind before human beings.
Okay. Now, what I want to ask you is, just for the fun of this, the person who disagreed with you, let's say hypothetically, because I agreed with you there, but let's just say the person who disagreed with you, does it make their belief unreal if... Well, that's a good question. So, the Wilson debate. A lot of people probably think that me not bringing up Trump in my opening or my rebuttal was a bad move, but that was calculated. The reason I did not bring up Trump at all is because fascism, for one, is extremely definitionally. Like, and you need to get your definitions down. It is one of those debates where being able to have the correct definition is very important. But the main reason I did not bring up Trump is because the openings are 10 minutes long. If I started giving examples of Trump, of how I think he's a fascist in the 10-minute opening, Andrew would have spent like fucking 5 minutes uninterrupted without me being able to correct him, tearing down my examples before we ever talked about them. That was intentional by me because I did not want him to have time uninterrupted to, one, incorrectly portray the example I gave, or, you know, because he's good with rhetoric. I didn't want him to be talking uninterrupted about it. I needed to be there to then give more information, whether he's not correctly, you know, talking about it or not. So the reason I didn't bring up anything about Trump in my opening and in my rebuttal, and you could tell that Andrew was upset about it. Andrew wanted me to do that. He was like, you haven't told me anything about Trump yet, you know, like where the fuck is the Trump examples? And I did that on purpose because, again, he would have sat there and been able to talk about it uninterrupted for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I think I gave good examples, but ultimately the examples in and of themselves are important, but what's more important is the form. So how the mobilization is happening. So when Trump, every politician can say that, you know, something extreme as like, we need to get rid of the vermin in our country, right? Every politician can say that. But the more important part is not to stick on the example itself. To understand what a fascist movement is, you need to talk about how it's mobilizing people themselves. So when Trump says these things, he is mobilizing a certain group that is the material part. And we see this. That is the more important thing. What is the rhetoric doing? Not does he say a thing? But that's kind of the reason I did not bring up anything about Trump in my opening or my rebuttal. That was on purpose. Then at the very end, if you want my actual, I didn't look very strong when I said I'm going to save, you know, my best argument for my closing. That was more of like an internal, you know, answer. Probably shouldn't have said that. Correct, yeah. I mean, I did bring up quite a bit. Things like, again, I am your retribution. But a lot of these Trump fascist debates will come down to people just naming off quotes, right? But no one wants to hear that. That's not really going to prove anything. When I bring up the quote, Andrew is obviously, it's going to steer away from the quote over time, as you can tell. And it wouldn't really look good if I was just like, well, Andrew, what about this one? What about this one? What about this one? What about this one? What about this quote? What about that quote? They're all quotes. And he would have easily taken them all in isolation. So you have to pick an example. And then the real debate is about whether or not I can show how it's mobilizing people, mobilizing a certain group or identity to act on behalf of that authentic core as an organism that has a destiny which they venerate and embody in a leader. And I mean, here, I could have brought up tons more examples. I had a lot, but I don't think it would have been more or realistically relevant, especially to people who think Trump is a fascist. I was trying to reach people who don't actually agree with me. And my closing and my opening, I did not write for Andrew. I did not write for the debate. I wrote it to try and speak to the audience. So when I say Trump is embodying a certain group of people, okay? I want you to take a long 49 seconds to try and figure out what the fuck this means right here, because this is what I'm talking about. I could have brought this up. I could have brought a bunch of other situations where this perfectly fits the idea of a leader who's being embodied with the destiny, you know, with the entire movement to fulfill destiny.
Honored to come before your presence today, lifting up the arms of our president. We pray for your continued blessing and favor to rest upon him. We pray for wisdom from heaven to flood his heart, his mind, and Lord, you will guide him in these challenging times that we're facing today. I pray for your grace and your protection over him. Yes. I pray for your grace and protection over our troops and all of our men and women serving in our armed forces. Yes. And Father, we just pray you'll continue to give our president the strength that he needs to lead our great nation.
What does that seem like to you? Just curious. Why are we putting all of this nation into one man? Why are we embodying one dude with the movement? This is what fascism is. An entire movement is putting their identity, how they feel the nation is, extremely isolated in isolation into one man to fulfill destiny. This is weird, but this is what fascism is. You have to find a venerated leader to do this with. And I could bring this up, and show this, but Andrew would have been like, that's just praying. That's kind of what people do in debates with fascism. And sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. Yeah, but the whole point of this is like, the language he's using right now is straight up fascist. Give our president the strength to lead our great nation. What do they mean by that? Well, they mean the nation that they want. And Trump is the venerated embodiment of that. They want him to fulfill destiny for it. That is the most fascist thing I could ever fucking think of.
As we come back to one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
We come back to one nation, come back to
Justice for all. We pray your heavenly blessing upon him in Jesus' name.
Amen. So, correct. The leader becomes more than the movement. This is why if Trump dies, J.D. Vance is not going to be able to do this. J.D. Vance will not be enough. No one else will be him. No one else is going to put J.D. Vance's fucking, face on their shirt. As you see, he would have never let me play this whole thing. So, it's easy in hindsight to be like, maybe I should have shown this, but Andrew's really good at reacting to the things that I would try to put out there. But what he would do is go, that's just praying. They're just praying. There's nothing ultra-nationalist about that. Where's the ultra-nationalism? He would have said, how is this ultra-nationalist? He's not putting the nation, he's not putting, the country forward. Yeah, but you have to think of what Andrew would say. I know exactly what he would do. He would start attacking the ultra-nationalist party. He would be like, there's nothing ultra-nationalist about this. This is just praying on behalf of your nation. This is nationalism, dude. You're not proving ultra-nationalism. And I feel like it would be pretty hard to overcome that. So what I did instead was a different tactic a little. I decided to give my case a little bit, have him try and say his words, and then I chose to point out that his diagnostic criteria, because every time in a fascist debate, okay, you have to think of it like this, okay? Let's just say the beginning starts out with a line, okay? And every time Andrew says that one of my parts, we'll just put little lines on the end here. Each one of these are my tenets that can use to define fascism, right? The thing is that Andrew doesn't realize he has his own tenets that he's putting forth too. So every time he neglects or says one of mine isn't working, Andrew is advancing one of his. So that means now this one moves here. So Andrew's putting forth a diagnostic definition. And a lot of my debate was me going, okay, well, how do you define ultranationalism? He defines it loyalty to the state. I show how that's incorrect, how it's, he collapses nation and state. All of a sudden, his entire diagnostic manual's fucked. So I chose to go that way. Yeah, Trump already said he's going to, yeah, this is my real stream. So Trump has already said he's going to run for a third term. I mean, I'm a big believer that when people tell you who they are, you need to listen to them, right? And Trump does it every day. It sucks that people who support Trump don't listen to him, but he does it. He does this every day, dude. Literally every day. If you go to whitehouse.gov, just reading the shit he puts out on this is fucking crazy. Also, if you want some funny stuff, why is it he keeps changing this every fucking day, bro? You're killing me. There's a research section here that is hilarious. So, economic impact of state income tax elimination. And then his economic advisory group fucking puts these out, and I swear to God, these things are fucking hilarious. Someone who has no respect for people below him. I haven't really looked at his executive orders recently. Oh, that would not be okay. You know that. Yeah, he's a tough opponent. I don't think Andrew was prepared enough for it though. Andrew's pretty knowledgeable in fascism. He's probably the most knowledgeable person I have ever talked to about it, outside of like, you know, university professors. But I don't think he was knowledgeable enough on it. You know, I've read, you know, Gentili, I've read a lot more than him, so I think he was a little taken off guard when I mentioned like theory of mind of the pure act. He usually relies on that pretty heavily to dismiss the rhetoric aspect of it. And the fact that I was able to bring up that Gentili thinks rhetoric is inseparable from action, he was on his back foot there. He was like, fuck, now I can't like just simply say Gentili says that action is more important, right? Because I've seen him do that. So he kind of was on his back foot for a lot of this. I don't really know either of those two. I know Jay Dyer. Jay Dyer would be a hard debate. He's pretty quick and confident in the way I have to like prepare extremely hard for that one. Correct. I brought that up in the debate too when I was like, he's like, what are the mobilized passions, man? And I was like, Christian nationalism? I mean, they want to go back to what they think the nation was, which, in my opinion, whether it was real or not, that's not important. The myth here, the mythos, is what is important. So, no, I'm kind of going over it right now. I kind of went over a little bit, but what time is it? 2:49. Well, he uses tag. He uses tag, right? And tag is kind of what this debate is about that I had with Eli. Well, some of the founding fathers did want to specify a religion. The states in the early United States, most of them had state religions. It wasn't until after with what is it, Section 8, Clause 2, or fuck, I can't fucking remember. But when we disqualified the religious test or whatever, that we kind of federalized it. So some founding fathers did want more of a Christian governance country, but they did not win. More people wanted a secularist one. So a lot of Christian nationalists will like point to writings of specific people and be like, look, some founding fathers wanted this, but that doesn't really mean anything because secularism is what we landed on. Mm-hmm. Are you talking about the beginning of the United States? Or are you talking about the tag approach in relation to what Jay Dyer does? The founding, yeah. I was like, tag has a grounding issue as well. I mean, just by the whole fucking argument is where you ground these immaterial concepts. And for tag, it's like, obviously you presuppose God, and God is the immaterial mind. Now you have to have immaterial concepts grounded in mind. And there is no way to make that jump. So they rely on the reductio contrary, right? Which is not a deductive argument. Now it all falls apart. The founding fathers were majorly Christian. Some of them may have been thought of as deist. I don't really think any of them could be thought of as atheist. I mean, that'd be fun. I know a lot about Christian nationalism, so it'd be fun. Let's say your entire argument is Athanasius, Gregory of Nyssa, Maximus the Confessor. I actually barely don't know any of those. The heck? Early Christian theology. Okay, so parishes, early parishes. Oh, okay. I know who this is. I don't know why. Yeah, they're early church fathers. I know Ignatius and stuff like that, but like I've read Ignatius, and I mean, there's a problem with the Trinitarianism, right? Which looks like he was the chief proponent of it. Laws of contradiction kind of disrupt this. So he's not in the Orthodox branch. Yeah, he's just like an early church parish guy. I actually don't know what the Orthodox does believe is correct early Christian theology. I'm actually pretty unfamiliar with that. So let's see. I was thinking of getting an Orthodox Bible because of how common it is now, but an Eastern Orthodox study Bible. Name, Orthodoxy. Yeah, they fall, but they don't have a bishop centered around a bishop, correct? Good luck with that. There's so many. There's so many. Don't Thomistic theologians also criticize Tag? I could have sworn that Tag is criticized by Reformist and Thomas. For instance, in the Trinity Review, put this up. So this is a Christian review by the Trinity, by Gary Crampton, where he goes over Van Til. Yeah. So the Thomistic method, where is a good place for me to read about that, for the most part? That would be Thomas Aquinas then, wouldn't it? Why did I not catch that? I have Summa Theologia. I have Volume 1, Volume 2, and I've read it extensively. I really enjoy Thomas's writing. I don't know why it didn't. I just, as soon as I fucking like saw Thomas's name there, I was like, wait a minute, that's got to be Thomas Aquinas. Sometimes I feel like I fucking such an idiot. Noticeably Thomistic. Yeah, this is always the big problem here, right? Is that Tag generally comes down to an abductive reasoning, which doesn't meet it doesn't actually meet the criteria. Eastern liturgical tradition, okay. Well, there's always more to fucking learn about this shit, isn't there? Early schisms. That's later. You named there we go. Well, that doesn't really give me his book, does it? This is a different guy. God damn it. Fuck. this guy, and then we have shrines, attributes, notable works, first letters to Serapion, and on the incarnation. Okay. Scholasticism. I mean, I feel like I'm going to heed your advice, but you know, the preconditions, right, for a transcendental argument is you have, for a transcendental condition, you're going to have y, right, and then you're going to have the x meet a necessary condition, right? So necessary condition, and like what happens in tag is you presuppose God. That way you can plant with the logic and the truth and things like that, immaterial concepts in the mind. And then you kind of just presuppose that immaterial mind of God's is where that would have to exist beforehand. You know, where logic needs to go and truth and all those things. But the way they get there, right, is the biggest problem. So I don't think I'm gonna heed your advice and do it anyway, but I think it's still enough to point out that like the way to meet the necessary condition here is you have to have a deductive argument. You have to have an actual argument, right? You can't just rely on the best possible answer. So the way that works is that you'd have to put forth an argument where God is the condition, as in like you can prove it beyond doubt. Whereas the tag method uses an abductive argument, where instead of saying that you can prove it beyond a doubt, you point to everything else, and then you say, look, no one else can do it. Therefore, out of necessity, God is the most likely answer. And that is not good enough. That's not an argument for, that's an argument out of spite of, which is all of a sudden everything breaks down. You don't need to read anything to know that. But I think if you wanted to do well in a debate against them, and you probably at least want to read what you're saying, so I'd heed your advice. And I definitely, if I did, I'd probably do a lot of that what you said. Exactly. I think the fine-tuning arguments are kind of funny because it is absurdity of the contrary. It's literally called, look, it's literally called a reductio ad absurdum. So the transcendental argument here, okay, this is in his conclusions in this paper. The problem here is that if the Christian is formulating his arguments on the presupposition of biblical revelation, which is what my opponent said, by the way, biblical revelation, then there is no theistic proof. I know it argues that logic, induction, and morals are impossible without God because the grounding is necessary in the mind, and an immaterial mind needs to be the grounding, which is in God, right? But there's no way to actually prove that. Because you can ground, in my opinion, you have to presuppose that God is the only place you can ground anything. And that's tag in a nutshell, because when you talk to someone who doesn't agree with that, like I brought up panpsychism, which is where the universe, some people think the universe in and of itself, like matter, is where consciousness comes from. It is abduction. No, it is abduction. Again, a deductive argument is where you need to put forth an argument from, you know, from the standpoint of what you're trying to prove. And then if you do it reductio ad absurdum, where you aren't trying to prove that God is how this happens, right? Instead, you're looking at everything else and goes, nothing else can do this. That is abduction. I know, but the point is that tag says necessary precondition, but people don't put forth a deductive argument for the necessary precondition. They use an abductive argument and they call it a deductive argument. So, I mean, people can call it necessary precondition and say it's deductive, but if all of a sudden you're using a reductio ad absurdum, it's no longer a deductive argument. Like it says here. So this is, again, Christian Review from 1996, by the way. Very old. So the whole big problem with Van Til's tag, as well as the way Frame talks about this as well, is that it is a reductio ad absurdum. It proves nothing with regard to the truth of Christian theism, but it reduces opponents' arguments to absurdity. The thing is like, he'd be wrong. Anyone who's familiar with how a transcendental condition works would know that Jay Dyer is being incorrect here. He might rhetorically say it well, but if you are reducing the opponent's arguments to absurdity, you are not doing deductive reasoning anymore. You are doing abductive reasoning, by definition. So you don't have, like it says here, an absolutely certain proof. So you're not proving God, you're proving that no one else can do what you want, right? That's not deductive. I know what you're saying, where he probably knows ways in which to rhetorically get around what I'm saying, and that would be the debate. But someone who knows what they're listening to would probably be a little annoyed if he tried to say that he was making a deductive position there. Is true right now.
No.
Okay,
Again,
so how does atheism become how does atheism become unreal now?
Well, it's impossible for atheism to be true. It's impossible for there to be no universal immaterial
Is the
mind
prompt
like what I
atheism is
just
not
talked
real
through.
or false? Which one is it? I know what tag does. What I'm telling you is that when you have to prove the condition, if you prove it by impossibility of the contrary, because that's what tag does, you are no longer making a deductive argument. Thereby, the underlying part of tag, of the condition in it, for your necessary condition is no longer deductive. You are making an abductive argument inside of the tag one. The whole thing collapses them. That's the problem. Exactly. If all you can do is point to the contrary, you're not doing deductive anymore.
Impossible.
Impossible is not the same as false, because you're pointing out that no one else can do it, and now you're resorting to this. I have the best answer. That's what that is.
I agree that it's a real belief system that people hold. Okay, but if they hold that atheism is true and it is false, then it's impossible for it to be true, Circa.
No, that's not true. Impossibility is not. Negation is a coherent stance. A negation is a coherent stance, dude. It doesn't mean impossibility. I don't know how you don't know this.
Okay, so look, if it is false,
you're not showing no possibility otherwise. The only way the possibility otherwise, okay, is actually believed is if you presuppose that God is the only way. This is why the other argument that people have is that there's no neutral ground. Because there are questions people have about how you ground immaterial concepts in minds. Do you see what I'm saying? It's only deductive if you presuppose, which is why it's called presuppositionalism, that God is the only thing. But that's just not true.
If atheism is false, okay, then, and especially false in the argument that I'm presenting, that God is the necessary precondition,
sure,
then it would be
impossible. Like he's saying, God is a necessary precondition.
Possible for atheism to be true.
Are you sure about that? Didn't you just say that the belief also, are you aware of like the divine hiddenness argument?
No.
So the divine hiddenness argument, okay, goes something like a transcendental argument has a deductive argument underlying it for the necessary condition. So for a deductive argument to be true, it has to be valid and sound. So where is tag failing on this? It's the tag argument is valid, the structure and everything, but the problem here is the soundness, and that's why it fails as a deductive argument. Because there is no way to actually prove that immaterial concepts come from and need to be grounded in an immaterial mind. So what happens is you point to the contrary and go, no one else can ground what I think is true, and then you just presuppose God, and then you make it an abductive argument because you could not prove the soundness. That's the problem. You can't just run past it. Does that make sense? Watch. Oops. Oops. Why did it do that? No, to make a deductive argument for the necessary condition, it absolutely must do that. It must be sound. And grounding is not something that is uncontested, right, Dinky? Does everyone agree that grounding must be within the mind? That's not true, right? I mean, you know that's not true. And also, how are you supposed to prove that? So the abductive part in tag is when you have an incomplete set of observations, right? So when you have an incomplete set of observations, what you do is you look at everything else and you go, look, they can't do it. They can't say a position. That's why this whole debate was him going, you don't have a position. It's like, I don't really need one. If you're trying to make a sound argument, you cannot use other positions for this. You must do it from your own. You must make an argument. Tag doesn't really make an argument. Okay? Does that make sense? He wasn't doing an internal critique either, but I did find that funny. Give me a second. I'm going to look it up really fast. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Well, that's fine. I really would like if you, so you believe that atheism is possible, right?
I mean, yeah, because I'm an atheist. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So again, you said Kant last time, that Kant was the grounding source of universal invariant laws, but I think that's kind of...
No, I said I could use Kant. I could use Kant. I kind of like Kant's arguments, yeah.
Well, again, you didn't actually present one, so I'm actually asking for my opponent to make an argument here about the possibility of the atheist worldview. I
do want to point out that I was a little unprepared for this debate too, right? The prompt is what I was thinking I was going to debate. So I think he lost this like right away because he wasn't arguing the prompt. He was like, I don't know why he didn't just tell me like he wanted to debate whether tag was true or not. Right? A little weird. I came in thinking, okay, he's going to argue that atheism is impossible, probably like socially, like social ontology, you know, blah, blah, things like that. So I had no idea I was going to come in and debate tag. And I kind of destroyed his argument in the beginning by saying, let's just say I accept everything here. Then doesn't the fact that a sincere, non-resistant, non-believer make atheism possible nonetheless? And he's like, no. I'm like, okay. So I didn't really know I was going to be debating tag the entire time. It was, I don't know, it seemed kind of sneaky, a little bit weird to like not just say the prompt that you wanted. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
This isn't the possibility of being an atheist, okay?
I didn't know he was going to say that, but like, dude, this is what I'm talking about. What is the prompt?
This isn't the possibility of being an atheist, okay?
I didn't think it would come up so fast. Like what did I? Why was I debating something different then? No, tag was proposed. I want to say that Kant did the first transcendental argument, right? And he purposely tried to not do God because he thought he could ground it outside of God, but inevitably he was a Christian who thought it could prove something about God, but he wasn't like confident enough to do the jump as later people. But tag was by Van Til. Kant can be sloppy because of the time period, yeah. But Van Til was the creator of tag, and I would assume probably like early 1900s. Yeah. 1920s, Westminster Theological Seminary. You're right. And his refinements come in The Defense of Faith in 1955. The infinite regress. I mean, the infinite regress argument's kind of I don't know, uninteresting to me because it kind of becomes a circle game as well. You're kind of talking about the unmoved mover thing, right? Like the first cause principle he talks about. Just so I make sure we're talking about the right thing. Some people use different words for it. Correct? Because there are a few ways to address it. One, it kind of like believes in plurality of actions in states. And some philosophers just reject the idea of pluralism within the states of like matter. So that doesn't, in a better way, it kind of means that there's no reason to believe that something does need to have a cause. The reason for that is because we don't know. We haven't been able to observe, like the beginning of a universe or whether it needs a cause. So, but that's why it becomes an infinite regress. Like the moment you say that, it becomes like a game of where you want to ground the cause, right? Tag does the same thing where ultimately you're going to be circling around where you want to ground these ideas. In the mind or in God, or you want to ground it somewhere else, and everyone just goes, nah, I don't agree. I reject that. And then it's just in circles and circles and circles and circles. At least that's how my experience usually goes with it. It's just a bunch of circles.
Okay.
I'm confused.
The worldview.
Again, some people believe that forms or acting on a thing, right? The plurality of that, there's no objective way to say that must be true. So a lot of philosophers reject the pluralism of it. And I'm not saying they're correct. Or I agree with it. I don't know enough of it to say that I would like hold that position. I tend to take a little bit more of a dumber position, which is like, because people will say like a car, it won't start unless someone builds it, or like a watchmaker, the watchmaker analogy. The point is that we've never seen a universe be created, so we don't know. The Steelman Thomistic argument, dealing with it. I mean, it's definitely. I think it's a good argument compared to like tag. I like arguments that argue for God and not just like try to argue, something else and then best guess God. So, I would just probably argue that implying that there needs to be a cause, an action, the mover, is overstretching the claim that you can make because we don't really know if that's necessary. I think. I'll be right back. I'm confused.
Being possible.
What does that mean, man? What are you trying to ask me?
Okay. I'm asking you specifically, in the atheist paradigm, and we'll even say metaphysically, how are universal invariant laws possible?
Exactly. I mean, you can think of them without God.
You can think of something universal?
Without God, yes, obviously.
Well, hold on. You can think of it, but can you produce a
So, like, this is him, like, going, wait. No. I'm sorry. Now you're going to have to ground it in something. And when I say panpsychism, you know, like that new idea that matter and consciousness are like the universe in a way that's God, I guess. I think I should have pressed that more because there's no answer here. I could just say it's grounded in that and presuppose it, and then we're doing the same argument just past each other, right?
universal invariant law.
I mean,
I agree we have access to universal invariant concepts, but I mean,
doesn't that mean that the other side, now it's true that they could exist?
And justification. No, so it's true that they do exist, not in an atheist worldview. But what I'm saying is, in the atheist worldview, giving an account for the possibility of something, okay? This is very specific.
Okay.
An account for the possibility.
It is. We observe things like cause and effect in our universe. And while they look contingent, I don't really think you can make the claim and empirically prove it, or, you know, with apodicity, that the first cause is necessary. Because we can't really observe that. Even though we observe things like the present, that would make you a materialist if you really wanted to, like, only use what we observe in the present, right? I think it's more complex than that.
Possibility
like
of
first cause, creation,
invariant laws, whatever you want to go with. But this is my whole argument about how atheism is impossible, and this is the one question you seem very eager to not answer.
Eli, maybe I can, if you answer me on this, maybe this will help Circa here. So, like, just to clarify a key term there, when you say atheism is impossible, you're talking about a logical impossibility, meaning it can't be true in any possible world, or an epistemic impossibility, meaning it cannot be justified or known.
As in like this.
Oh,
true atheism is impossible.
So
I think I understand. I think I understand. I think I understand.
Wait, one second.
Yeah.
Okay. Just he's saying both.
Yeah.
He's saying it's epistemically impossible and logically
So
impossible.
my thing I was going to bring up, divine hiddenness, is kind of in answer to this. Okay, so, like, I think the claim is true atheism is impossible because all humans know God at some level, in a way. Correct?
are you asking if that's the argument I'm making?
I feel like that would be the epistemic argument here, right? The truth is that all atheists it's not possible because all humans technically know God at some level. He makes the universal claims there.
No, I'm saying that there is a specific metaphysic about reality that needs to be the case in order to make logic, knowledge, truth, meaning, information, any transcendental category possible.
Okay, so that means we technically cannot not know God at some level, right?
Worldview. Huh?
That means we know God at some level, like, essentially.
Well, yeah, I think that that's true, but that doesn't mean that's the argument that I'm making.
And you're inferring this from evidence, right? I think.
Yes, but I'm again, you're not answering my direct question.
No, I'm
about
I'm just
atheism.
getting
All
questions to
you'd
understand
have
it.
to do is give an answer that's true, and you would defeat this prompt. I'm tossing you a softball into the air.
I know. I'm just asking you questions to understand it.
For the possibility. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do it really slow. You agree that universal immaterial concepts exist, okay? You agree that universal immaterial concepts exist, right?
Yeah.
And they exist in the atheist worldview.
I'm going to say yes again for your argument. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you don't want to give a clear answer.
No, I'm about to give you one, but then you just made me like.
Well,
you were mean to me for no reason when I was trying to just ask you questions. It was really weird.
Well, you do the, like, Dean Parker condescending.
No, it wasn't condescending. I just wanted to know what your claim was. So, like,
so anyway,
divine hiddenness. Okay, I'm gonna give you an answer to what you said. So the existence of a sincere, non-resistant non-belief would count as evidence against this, correct? Against the existence of God, who would want a relationship with humans.
Dude.
Correct?
I'm asking you how regular. Let's just say regularity.
Did you even listen to what I said? Dude.
Regularity.
Dude. Dude. He didn't even listen to what I said. He said epistemically, it's impossible for someone to be an atheist, right? And then I brought up divine hiddenness, the exact answer to epistemic, claim about atheism being impossible. And he just goes, dude. Fucking Christ. Dude.
You're not answering my question whatsoever.
Yes, I am.
Do you believe that
I'm answering your epistemological question.
I'm asking you this.
Let Eli.
I don't really understand this. Can anyone else tell me how he didn't understand what I was saying? Am I like... The epistemic question here is exactly what I just answered with divine hiddenness, is it not? Also, in the Bible, in Van Til's presuppositionalism and tag, one big argument against it is that suppressed knowledge is what the Bible says. So you'd have to go against the Bible, specifically Romans 1, where all non-believers are just suppressed in their knowledge. Therefore, trying to break that is anti-biblical, right? So that's a big argument against tag and Van Til.
I asked the question again and answer it directly.
Sure.
Okay. How does in an atheist worldview, how are universal, immaterial, invariant laws possible?
Why did you go backwards? I thought you were asking me the epistemical question or the epistemic question.
I've been asking the same question for like 10 minutes now.
And I already showed you that falsify, falsy.
Let's not do the meta. Let's not do the meta.
That's what this conversation is. He's trying to fucking equate impossibility with falsity, and that's stupid.
Well, here's the thing: you're taking the position it's possible. I'm asking you how, and then you're.
And that still doesn't prove that atheism is impossible, though, bro.
Wait, no, you would disprove the prompt if you showed how it's possible.
I don't think you understand these words.
I made a demonstration of how it's impossible.
Is something wrong?
You're not even attacking.
I know it's not. It's epistemic. It is epistemic. It is concerning the epistemic. That's a fact. I'm sorry. It is 100% a fact. Okay. Specifically, okay, when it comes down to I know it's kind of weird you got that. So like epistemic of this idea, right? Dinky is sensus divinitatis. So reformed epistemology. So the idea of sensus divinitatis. So this is the belief that God can be properly basic rather than inferred from evidence. So if God exists and humans are equipped with reliable faculty directed toward God, then unbelief may be explained as dysfunction, suppression, distortion, or resistance. Right? That's the epistemology here. True atheism is impossible because all humans know God at some level. Now, this is an epistemic or a psychological idea. So the reason I brought up of divine hiddenness is because divine hiddenness argues that the existence of sincere, non-resistant, non-belief counts against the existence of God who would want a relationship with humans. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but it is, because this completely breaks apart the idea that atheism is impossible. It doesn't say that it's not wrong or not intelligible, but the claim that it is impossible is now epistemically dumb. You get what I mean? That's what divine hiddenness fights against. It's not the conceptual one. This is epistemic or psychological. Okay, that's what divine hiddenness literally just argues against. Because sincere atheism is possible. Because something is wrong.
Well, there's some form of
hold up. I just want to clarify what's going on for the audience here, right? One side is arguing, right? Eli is arguing that atheism is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And what it seems that Circa is saying that it could still be true even if it's impossible, right? If that's
wrong.
the case,
It could still be
what does
possible if it's wrong.
impossible even exclude anymore?
He has 5 different
let's go
arguments
there.
under it right now. He's doing like 5 different claims underneath
Well,
one
no,
prompt.
Circa,
Well, again, I told you it's a
I don't wanna be the
paradigmatic
meta.
worldview level
You're not debating
argument.
the
So
model. Wait,
none of this
Eli,
is in a
Eli,
vacuum.
hold
And
up.
it doesn't
hold
answer
up,
the prompt.
Hold up, guys. Hold up. let's Circa.
Yeah.
He's asking you a direct question, and
I answered it a long time. Well, in Romans, right, suppression of belief is biblical, and there is no such thing as a true, genuinely non-resistant non-believer, right? So, but in my opinion, the very existence of someone who's a genuinely non-believing, non-resistant atheist is an argument against this very idea, right? Epistemically. I think it'd be harder to, to argue that the universal is reliable in the inverse of what you just said. Because the existence of true non-believers, I think, is real, right? A lot of people don't even know who God is, the Christian God at least. But I have to end my stream. I have a hard cutoff because I have to go to work. But I will catch you all later. Thank you for joining me. I think, Dinky, you were in my YouTube comments, right? Judging by your writing, it seems like you're the same person, and I was kind of very excited. Okay. Well, you write very well. So I hope to see you again. And we can go over more of this, because I feel like I can learn a lot from you if I do ever debate someone like Jay Dyer. And I'm being honest in that, okay? But thank you all for watching.